Listen, there was some big Apple news today, and especially for fans of the iPhone and the iOS kind of world, and we thought we'd run through that a little bit. Basically, they are doubling down on what was released with the iPhone 10 last year. There's a bunch of varieties now of the iPhone 10. All of them come complete with the notch. There is the iPhone 10s and the iPhone 10s Max, and they are both of Johnny Ive calls them the uncompromising iPhone models now, because they have OLED screens, they have the fastest processor, the A12 Bionic processor. They have computational photography, and I think that's the most exciting thing about the new iPhones. It's really about not just taking a photo, but you make the photo with all kinds of after the fact sort of depth enhancements and stuff, so you can get that level of detail and that bokeh kind of effect behind your the people that you're taking a picture of, or the objects that you're taking a picture of, which is really cool. It's something that we look for in our video photography as well, and it just looks slick. It's sort of an edge-to-edge screen, but they're very expensive, both the S and the S Max. They look gorgeous and huge. The Max is the biggest screen that Apple's ever put onto an iPhone, but the Max at max specs, which is 512 gigabytes, is $2,000 in Canada. So that's a pretty beefy phone with a beefy price. It seems a little obnoxious to go that high for something like that, but I'll be honest, I use my iPhone more than I use anything else that I have. You see, I've got the laptop here, and I've got an iMac that I work off of, and we use PCs for gaming and for streaming and all that stuff. I use the iPhone for more than anything. So it does feel like we are weighted in that direction for the hardware capabilities and the software capabilities, and if it becomes sort of this extension of our computational existence in everyday life, there's a case to be made for spending for a premium experience in that way. But $2,000, that's a lot of money. It's a little bit less than US bucks. And I think to counter that, iPhone is also going to be releasing, and it's interesting how they're staggering this, because on the 14th you can pre-order the S and the S Max, but you have to wait until October until you can pre-order the cheaper and also equally impressive iPhone XR. Now, it has an LCD screen. It doesn't have 3D touch, which I hardly ever use, to be honest. That's when you kind of tap into the screen a little bit more, and then you can activate some subfolders and things like that. It honestly has just made sort of navigating and trying to move folders or files around on my phone a little more cumbersome than it was supposed to be, and it doesn't feel like 3D touch is used all that much. Correct me if I'm wrong, but the XR comes in for considerably less amount of money. Of course, you're not getting the crispiness and the beauty of the OLED screen. It's also aluminum on the R as opposed to stainless steel on the S, but everything is dust-proof and waterproof, and I think if you put your a very expensive new iPhone or iPhone 10R or iPhone 10s into a case, which most of us probably would, I think it all comes out in the wash. I'm leaning more towards the R. I'm a little bit more excited about that, mostly because it has only a single camera. It doesn't have the two cameras of the iPhone 10s on the back, so you can't do the depth of field tricks sort of optically, but it can still do it through computational power, through the same sort of machine learning that they're putting into this stuff, which is kind of rad. So you can still get that depth of field, and it also still has the same front-facing camera. So it has a lot of the same tech for less money, and the cool thing is you get more color options. So it actually it looks very enticing, and I feel like most people, I think most people are going to go to the R. I think it's going to be a pretty successful phone. The other thing, of course, that they announced is the iPhone or the iWatch or the Apple Watch 4, and it's got a much bigger screen's 44 millimeters. I've got the Apple Watch 3. I've loved it. I was a little skeptical at first. I didn't go in on the first two iterations of the watch, but the third one I did, and I really like it. I really do use it. One of the primary things that I do is I text people by text to speak, and I just hold my wrist up, and it's usually because I'm carrying a coffee or an umbrella. I know I'm in Vancouver, it's weird, but people text me all day long. It's just a way that we deal with stuff, and I can't always always get my phone out, and I certainly can't type with both fingers. I have a large phone. This is still the 7S that I work off of. So it's sometimes really handy to just be able to say, you know, I don't want to say the S word because it's going to pop up, but I'm able to text people, and sometimes there's a lot of errors in my texts, right, Blake? Yep, a lot of things, and you just, Blake reads them and has to decipher what the hell I'm saying. But the thing that they've done with the 4, in addition to, you know, giving you more features and, you know, an updated software, which will also be applicable to all of the previous Apple Watch versions, except the first one, I think, they've created a bigger screen, but they've also pushed a lot more of the health benefits. So they are really saying that this is going to be a lifeline. It's going to register your blood flow and your heart rhythm and all of that stuff coming through the sensors on the watch, which is kind of cool. It's been FDA approved. So they're really thinking of it as some kind of a Baymax that you wear on your wrist, which is kind of cool. I'm curious to see it in person. I mean, I am pretty damn happy with my 3. I do like the idea of a faster processor because this thing isn't as fast as a phone, but I also like the 3 that I have isn't as fast as the phone, but the 4 is getting closer to phone speeds apparently. But I also want to see how much cooler it looks to have a bigger face on your wrist as well. They're getting better. My biggest problem with Apple Watch, and it has been this way from the beginning, that you can customize the bands, you can kind of customize some of the external looks of the metals and stuff like that, but they all look the same. And so we get a billion people walking around with Apple Watches, and watches are not just a functional thing, they're a form of expression and a form of fashion in a way. And it's kind of crazy to me that Apple has just said, nope, everybody gets a square thing and that's it. I mean, I guess it's that way with the phone, but phones are a little bit more utilitarian. And but fashion, watches are fashion, and the bands aren't enough. But they are certainly doing well in both sectors. I don't know. Are you guys excited, or is this just ho-hum? It's more iOS stuff. It's more phones and watches. One thing that I did like in the presentation is that Apple made a commitment to talk about the fact that all of the Apple facilities that they have around the world are 100% renewable energy. I like the fact that iOS 12 works on phones all the way back to the iPhone 5S, which is really cool. I don't know how that compares in the Android world. I think when new Android when new Android OS drops, it sometimes screws up some of the older Android devices, or they're just incompatible. I think that's cool, and I also like the fact that they're trying to encourage people to kind of hang on to their phones a little bit longer with this, and they have the replacement thing, like the give back kind of thing. So you walk in, and I guess if you don't want it, they will recycle it somehow. If you can't sell it or whatever. So, I mean, I know that a lot of that's PR, and a lot of that is you can afford to do that when you're the wealthiest company on earth. But I like all of those messages. So we'll see. Love to hear your feedback, though, what you think about what Apple's announcements were like today. I don't know if I'm going to get one. I'll probably reach out to Apple and see if they're going to send out any review units. I'm curious to check it out. I haven't really played around with too much AR stuff with the iOS stuff. But stay tuned. I may get one. I'm sort of on the fence right now, but I would love to hear your thoughts.